Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Antorus, the Burning Throne, and just my first impressions after finishing a full clear through and seeing kind of all that the raid had to offer, and also the storylines of it and what kind of this sets us up for in the near future. Okay, so first off, I really did enjoy the raid. I thought the raid visually was really fun, and there was a lot of different ways, or a lot of different places you kind of visit throughout the raid, whether that's the Antorus sanctuary on that different planet that's like a life planet, and then also there is the Burning Throne itself, where it's like all red and it's like a palace of the Legion, and then also there's like the exhaust where you're basically in like the slums fighting all sorts of different bosses, and there's like there is the actual exhaust where you're like in the forges of where the obliterators and all the fell reavers and all that were forged. And I think that that's really cool. I think that there's a lot of different places and a lot of different visual aspects of the Antorus, the Burning Throne, and with that comes, I would say, like an overall successful like visual experience. Like the artwork was really good. Now I do want to talk about the mechanics and just kind of the overall boss fights of it. Like looking at these bosses, just from normal perspective, like normal difficulty setting, it felt like the raid was definitely undertuned. I know that it is just normal, and I know that the heroic and mythic settings, aren't really fully explored yet, and that could be way harder. But just from normal Antorus the Burning Throne compared to Tomb of Sargeras, the difference was just very large. I felt like, fighting like Kil'jaeden, and even Avatar in normal, when I did that in Tomb of Sargeras, like it was pretty hard. Like you actually had to focus, you actually had to have a good group, and even though you had a lot of item level, it didn't really quite matter, because the amount of soaking that needed to happen, amount of mechanics that you had to follow and sorts and all those different things, like it really did seem like the raid of Antorus was just undertuned and pretty easy. Like looking at the ANR, the Lifebinder encounter, where you're doing this like tower defense system, I love the design of that, and I really do hope that in Mythic that is a very difficult fight, because it's very unique. Like basically how it works is that throughout the fight, like there is this big shrine that you're in, and throughout the fight Legion forces will port in, similar to like how a tower defense system game works, and you have to kill all these Legion things before they get into the essence of ANR and start killing that essence or capturing that essence or whatever. And the more that you defeat all of these different Legion mobs, that like infuses its essence into ANR, and that obviously gets you towards beating the boss. We fought this and it just felt like it was really easy. Like we felt like we were just killing trash mobs, and that was the entire encounter. But I thought that the design and the idea of it was so cool that I do hope that the difficulty does step up. Looking through all of the different bosses, I'm just going to point out a few of them that I thought were really like worth talking about. King Garoth, awesome boss. Really, really cool. I thought that this was actually probably one of the bosses that were more quality out of all of them. King Garoth basically summons a couple different adds and has a really strong tank mechanic where if you get hit by this, it's called the Forge Breaker, where he slams his hammer on the ground, and since you're moving everywhere in the entire platform throughout the fight, King Garoth like can one-shot you. You actually have to pay attention to where the boss is facing. I mean, he's got like a Trilliax beam involved. Like there's so many different things about the fight that I thought was really cool. And I want to open up the discussion of the room and the space. Not only was that super relevant during the King Garoth fight, but I think in comparison from Antorus to the Tomb of Sargeras, the amount of space and the platforms and just like how much you had available to you, and just like positioning and like space, really did kind of, that was the most impressive factor, I would say, is the fact that you had so much movement to go about. Because in Tomb of Sargeras, like you always had these really small rooms. Like if you think about the Desolate Host room, or if you think about the Sisters of the Moon fight, Kil'jaeden platform, like all of them were very, very small areas. And I think that Antorus has definitely proven that they have seen that feedback of such small platforms and small areas to fight these bosses in, that now hopefully they feel like they have served justice, because I think that the fights were really cool in terms of the environment and the platform and the room you would have to stay in, the boss area, and I hope that that does continue to be very large scale, because I want I want like boss fights to either move throughout different parts of the room or have a big open space in which you can maneuver, and making the mechanics kind of fit to that environment more so. Than having like a small room, and with Tomb of Sargeras, like you had to do so much different soaking mechanics, and with Kil'jaeden specifically, like if you missed one soak throughout the entire fight, it would just ruin the entire fight. Everyone would wipe instantly. And since it's such a small area and everyone missing these soaks, it was kind of silly and kind of repetitive. So I think that they've done a pretty good job with diversifying all the different boss fights. They've done a very good job of fixing the environments and giving you something that's a little bit different than just like a circular room of a boss fight. Like, you know, again with the ANR encounter, like there's a tower defense system, there's all sorts of different levels. You have to go to each one of them. You have like a flying extra ability, a special ability button where you can actually fly across the map. There's these like Alakir elevator type things where you can launch yourself. Like I really think that was creative and I enjoyed it a lot. So if I were to give my overall impressions of Antorus, the Burning Throne, I would have to say that I would give the raid a 9 out of 10. I think that the raid was really fun, and I think that the visuals of it and the cinematics were super awesome. But I do think that it was a little bit undertuned, and a little the boss fights were a little bit more easy. So that's why I say, at least like normal Antorus, I would give a 9 out of 10. I hope that there are I hope that the boss fights do get a little bit more difficult, because that would really do the raid justice. I think that people should have to work a lot harder to kill the bosses. And I hope that that does come through in Heroic and Mythic. So that's all I wanted to say. The last boss was super fun, by the way. I love having death as a resource. I love the tree, and it almost felt like Lich King, having to die in the middle of the fight and being rezzed, and I thought that was super cool. You know, dealing with Argus the Unmaker and how he kills everyone, and I think that's just super cool. So, you know, where does this kind of bring us, right? What's next? And this is something that really does set up Battle for Azeroth. This is something that is like the foundation for the next step of the story. You know, basically this huge sword has plunged into Silithus, and we're in a position now where we have a lot of different content coming out. There's actually a new battleground in Silithus focused around that sword, called the Seething Shore, and focused around that area, and that's going to be coming out in 7.3.5. 7.3.5 hopefully will have new contest quests where you actually go through and start seeing the story of the aftermath of Silithus being destroyed. I thought it was super sad, all those NPCs dying that you've known for so long, but you know, overall it is what it is. And I think that hopefully these next quests will bring it back to the faction fight that we've seen, and we'll hopefully be able to see kind of like how Battle for Azeroth is starting. And you know, I hope that that comes out pretty soon. So one thing I did notice, and one thing I did want to bring up to you guys, is that like Sargeras didn't seem to die. There was a few data mine things in about like 2 months ago or so, where Sargeras like was notably imprisoned by Illidan, and there was like a little bit more, there was like a larger step to that story. So I'm really curious as to like what is the closure for this expansion, because like really all we saw was Sargeras being pulled back, and Illidan like looking at this Sargeras figure and being like, finally, you know. But like, what's next for that? Like, is there going to be another cinematic that's going to, like, meanwhile in a galaxy far, far away, show Illidan like beating Sargeras, or is that just going to be open-ended? My gut says that it's going to be open-ended, but I do hope that they like close that out, or at least like, you know, nod to the fact that that story was kind of a cliffhanger. But overall, like, I do want to move forward to Battle for Azeroth content. I want to see stuff kind of be more like, I want to see the factions become more tense. I want to see what happens with the burning of Teldrassil and the Undercity fight, and see how all of that progresses. I think that that's going to be really cool, guys. But that does sum it up for today's video. I just wanted to give you guys my first overall impressions of the raid. You know, I think that I can dive into the boss fights themselves, but I don't think that's super necessary until Mythic comes out and people start clearing Mythic. So if you guys want that content, leave it down, or leave a comment down below letting me know. And also leave a like on this video if you did enjoy my first impressions, and also let me know what you guys think about the raid itself. Like, did you enjoy Antorus or not? Like, what were your faults, or what were your things that you liked or disliked about it? Leave it down in the comment below. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.